6 years of development hell, abandoned concepts, resignations, corporate restructurings, an entire industry writing it off as pure vaporware. And yet, this single project pivoted, released, and generated $9 billion in just its first 2 years.
Welcome back to Learning with Pratik. If you're new here, this is where we break down the world's most fascinating stories, trends, and systems, making the complex incredibly simple. Today, we're exploring the evolution of Fortnite. We are going to look at exactly how a delayed, profoundly troubled project engineered an unprecedented metamorphosis, transforming from a fairly simple cooperative shooter into a massive, global ecosystem.
Chapter 1. A Decade in Development. If we trace this brutal 6-year journey, it actually reveals a pretty chaotic origin story. Fortnite was first announced way back at the 2011 Video Game Awards as this cartoony, cooperative survival game. But the traditional industry model, shipping a brand new game every few years, was quickly becoming financially unsustainable. So, in 2012, the Chinese multimedia conglomerate Tencent stepped in and acquired a massive 40% stake in Epic Games. This forced a company-wide pivot toward a games-as-a-service model. Basically, they needed a project that would continuously generate revenue over time. By 2016, Fortnite was essentially delayed, seemingly pushed aside so the studio could prioritize another title called Paragon. It really wasn't until the summer of 2017 that Fortnite finally limped into early access, making a very modest, honestly pretty quiet splash.
Chapter 2. The Battle Royale Pivot.
Now, at this point, the Battle Royale genre was already exploding. It was largely dominated by PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, a game that leaned heavily into grim, highly realistic military stylings. Epic recognized this massive trend, but they approached it completely differently. They managed to capture an entirely new audience by making their mode free-to-play, requiring much lower hardware specifications, and introducing a bright, playful aesthetic. But most importantly, they integrated unique, real-time arcade construction mechanics. You didn't just shoot, you built. It fundamentally changed the geometry of the game in real time. Unsurprisingly, this sudden pivot resulted in immediate industry blowback. Bluehole, the developers behind PUBG, put out a strongly worded press release, stating, "Fortnite may be replicating the experience for which PUBG is known. This was never discussed with us, and we don't feel that it's right." Despite this initial controversy and some very real threats of legal action, Fortnite's unique mechanics saved it. Combined with organic, viral player discoveries, like people figuring out they could literally ride on giant pumpkin rockets, the game rapidly carved out its own distinct, unassailable identity.
Chapter 3. The Science of Retention. So how do you keep millions of players coming back month after month? We can look at 2025 academic data on live service games, and it illustrates that long-term player commitment isn't really just about the combat loops. There's a 40% retention boost that comes simply from an evolving story and lore. Then you see a massive 52% increase stemming from social features, things like guilds, teams, and cooperative play. Customization adds another 28% on top of that. The data makes it incredibly clear. Social systems and continuous narratives are the actual engines driving player loyalty.
Another foundational pillar of their retention strategy was trust. According to the same data, 78% of players approve of cosmetics-only monetization. So, Epic strictly stuck to this model. They sold visual skins and dances while completely avoiding pay-to-win mechanics, which, by the way, sit at an abysmal 12% approval rating. By maintaining a perfectly fair playing field, they built vital, long-lasting trust with their massive community.
But there is also a distinct, highly calculated science to their pacing. By simply updating content every 2 to 4 weeks, Epic achieved a 35% increase in 30-day player retention. It's a delicate balance. They provided fresh, meaningful content to prevent the game from feeling stagnant, but they spaced it out just enough to successfully avoid player burnout.
Chapter 4. Marketing the Metaverse. Once the player base was secured, Epic systematically transformed their game into a global marketing platform. They leveraged record-breaking influencer streams, most notably that massive internet-breaking session with Drake and Ninja. They executed seamless in-game crossovers with major franchises like Marvel. They actively listened to community feedback to dynamically shape the island's map, and they utilized deep data analytics for highly precise campaign targeting. These weren't just static billboard advertisements. They were literally weaving over 100 external brands into the game's actual living lore.
And the financial gravity of these collaborations was just immense. To put this into perspective,
Epic casually sold 3.3 million NFL-branded skins in a single month leading up to the Super Bowl. At roughly $15 a skin, that single collaboration generated an estimated $50 million in just a few weeks. It's truly staggering when you run the numbers.
But they pushed way beyond digital apparel. They essentially turned the island itself into an interactive digital venue. In 2019, an astonishing 10.7 million players attended a live 10-minute in-game concert by DJ Marshmello. This proved definitively that Fortnite was no longer just a battle royale. It had become a digital gathering space, a functioning metaverse.
Chapter 5: The UGC Revolution. Now, if you aren't familiar, UGC stands for User-Generated Content. It represents custom maps, game modes, and digital experiences that are built entirely by the players themselves, rather than the core developers at Epic Games. In 2021, Epic introduced creative tools that empowered their audience to become digital architects. This fundamentally disrupted the traditional competitive gaming model. It took the power of creation and transferred it directly into the hands of the community.
The resulting paradigm shift was profound. Today, the majority of engagement in Fortnite, a staggering 60% of total playtime, no longer happens in the developer's original Battle Royale mode. Instead, it happens inside community-created worlds and minigames. The players themselves are now the primary creators of the platform's value. Think about that for a second. The community is out building the studio.
This shift has birthed a massive, incredibly lucrative creator economy. With over $300 million in projected creator payouts for 2024, the entire ecosystem has been radically transformed. Professional esports organizations are now being forced to diversify. To actually survive this shift, competitive teams are acting a lot more like content studios. They are building custom, branded islands and generating revenue directly from player engagement, rather than relying solely on traditional tournament winnings.
We're witnessing a fundamental evolution in digital media. As engagement shifts away from simply playing developer-made modes toward exploring these vast user-created economies, a profound question emerges. Are platforms like Fortnite still just games, or have they quietly become the next iteration of the internet itself? I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Let's discuss it down in the comments below.